I manage the approval process and the community outreach process. I live in the town of Sonoma and have been in the real estate business for the last 25 years in a variety of different developments, all in the North Bay. My colleague, Jeff McCormick, who is with us as well, is the project manager. Jeff, too, has been in the development business for many, many years. Up until about 4 years ago, most of his developments were in Southern California. But he came north, and our first project in Northern California is over in Napa, where we have Register Square. That's a 51 residential unit project with 2 commercial units as well, and that's in downtown Napa. And Jeff lives in Napa. So we're both North Bayers. And in addition, I want to thank and introduce Dan Like, who's up in the upper left-hand corner, who thankfully he managed the Know Before You Grow meeting that we presented to. And I prevailed upon him I pleaded actually, to see if he would help us with the technical aspects of this meeting. And he kindly agreed to do so. So anyways, in addition to that, I guess Jeff, if you could pull up the slideshow, we can begin. And while Jeff's doing that, I'd like to tell you our agenda tonight really is quite simple. It will be just the introductory phase that we've just gone through. And then I will cover we'll sort of highlight the various aspects of the project and then pass the baton to Jeff, who will go through some of the plans, some of the renderings of the different architectural styles and that sort of thing. And then after that, we will open it up for question and answers. And we can do that both using the chat function as well as just putting up your hand, and then Dan will let you in to ask questions. The rendering that you're looking at now on the screen, the street the east-west street where what looks to be a Lexus is turning would be McNair. And then the street running north-south runs parallel to Nadine Lane. On the right are all single-family residences, and they back up to the back of the homes on Nadine. And on the left are 3-story townhomes and buildings that contain the condominium flats. Okay, so next slide. The project site is outlined in red here. That's along the boulevard. The blue line indicates just one of the site improvements we're going to be doing, and that is extending the curbs and gutters as well as a bike lane from up around the bowling alley all the way down to roughly where the PPSC offices are south of our site. The site is from the corner of McNair up to D Street. It's about 0.8 miles, and to the nearest market, it's about 0.3 miles. That's just a couple of blocks north of the site. We have named the development Vartnaw Landing because the Vartnaw family has owned the site up until we purchased it about 2 years ago. For close to 100 years. And Captain Vartnaw was the patriarch of that family, quite a storied career on the seas. And so in honor of the captain as well as the family, we've named it Vartnaw Landing. And it's important for everyone to know that the plan we're presenting here tonight is one that has been well over a year in the making. we started meeting with staff roughly about a year and a half ago, and continued working with them with various iterations. In one case, we started out with one plan and completely redid it after meeting with staff and with some community stakeholders. Our goal has always been to have a development that meets the needs of the community. Next slide, please. So the project, the acreage, we're just a little bit over 4 acres. The zoning is R4 residential, so there's no commercial, it's only residential. The zoning density is 18 units per acre, or 74 units, and we are utilizing a density bonus to increase the number of units up to 79. And the units are arrayed in a variety of different configurations. We have 38 stacked flats, and flats it's just another way of saying condominium apartments. And they range in size from just under 750 square feet in 2-bedroom, 1-bath configurations up to just under 900 square feet in 2-bedroom, 2-bath configurations. The townhomes, there will be 25 of those, and they will all be 1,524 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 3 baths. There's one duplex. One side of the duplex will be 1,555 square feet with 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. The other half will be 1,851 square feet, and that will have 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. The triplex, again, has a 1,555 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath unit. And then the other 2 portions will have 1,850 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bath layout. And then the 11 single family units range anywhere from 1,851 square feet, and those are 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, up to 2,040 square feet, and those are 4 bedrooms, 3 bath units. Plus, we will have 4 ADUs, accessory dwelling units, also known as granny flats, behind one of the single family units, as well as different portions of the duplex and the triplex. Next slide, please. Of the 79 units, 26 are deed restricted, and they are spread out throughout the development. The 4 ADU units are deed restricted, very low rentals. There's not a requirement to rent, but if they are rented, they would have to comply with that regulation. There's 173 parking spaces, most of them in garages, 139 in garages, and then there are 34 surface parking spaces for guests. It's important to know, because I know parking is a concern of everyone, and that the CCNRs, the rules for the HOA will dictate that garages are to be used for the storage of cars, not as a storage area, not for man caves and the like. And so the HOA will be responsible for policing that, so that cars are kept in the garages where they belong. The project pricing will range from the mid 300s up to $1 million per unit. 58% of the units are priced below $500,000. So this is it will be a very affordable project for young people starting out and folks on limited budgets. And that certainly was one of our targets to help to meet the housing crunch that is very evident in Petaluma. Some of our off-site improvements, and I mentioned this prior when we were looking at the aerial photograph, we are doing curbs, gutters, and a bike lane north and south of the project. We're adding a bus stop at the corner of Petaluma Boulevard and McNear. And we will be undergrounding all power lines along McNear and the Boulevard. Next slide, please. The environmental protection and environmental aspects of the project are very important. And we have built them into the design of the development. 1.6 acres, or so roughly 40% of our land area will be dedicated to open space. All garages will have electric vehicle charging stations. There'll be solar on all units. The project will meet the Tier 2 California Green standards. And what that speaks to is energy and water efficiency and low impact building materials. We're providing a 20-unit bike share system for resident use, and we're in negotiations with Mike's Bikes in Petaluma to maintenance that system for us. And we'll be installing 210 native trees. We're saving 10 trees where they stand. These are primarily oaks along the property line that backs up to Nadine, and then some other oaks and plane trees along McNear. And then we're transplanting additional oaks to different locations on the site, and then adding all the additional trees. And these will be in a minimum of 36-inch boxes. Some of them will be larger, so that the site will begin to fill out relatively quickly. And there's a new California environmental law, SB 743, also known as the Vehicle Miles Traveled Regulations, that we need to comply with. And in order to do that, we are volunteering to do a focused environmental impact report that will assure our compliance with those regulations. An EIR adds anywhere from 2 to 6 months to the planning process, but we feel it's important so that we can be assured that we are complying with the regulations. Next slide, please. In terms of community outreach, we're doing this community meeting tonight, of course. Our plan is to do 3 of them at different phases as we go through the planning process. We've already done 1 site tour with members of the Nadine and Lena Lane community. We've done site tours with some of the planning commissioners and all of the city council. We have had discussions and made our first presentation of the project to the Know Before You Grow community group. And we will be returning and presenting there again as we make more progress. We are consulting currently with Daily Acts on the design of the bus stop. Daily Acts is a local nonprofit. They longtime association with the city and in agricultural gardening and that sort of thing. But they also run the Safe Routes to School program. And one idea that came up in discussions with them is to enlist some of the kids in their Eco to School programs to help us design a welcoming bus stop there at the corner of the Boulevard and McNair. In addition, we're working with local groups on reusing some of the on-site material. One discussion was with Bug over at Heritage Salvage, and he suggested using the wood from the old barn on the site and some of the corrugated metal to put a gazebo on our little park, and that's something we're quite excited about. We're working with we're meeting with the Housing Land Trust next week, but our hope is that we will work with them on the the marketing and the management of our affordable units. And one very important thing that is not on this slide and should be is Generation Housing, better known as Gen H, has endorsed our project. They have a stringent process that you have to go through and various checkpoints that your project has to meet in order to get their endorsement. And we have been endorsed by Gen H, and they will be actively advocating for the approval of the project. I believe that brings my portion of the presentation to a close, and I'll now pass the talking stick over to Jeff McCormick to continue through the plan.
Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to go through the sort of nuts and bolts of the plan here. As Scott mentioned, the site is 4.09 acres, and it consists of 4 different product lines: multifamily product, the duplexes, and single-family detached product. The multifamily product is in 11 buildings in the on the Petaluma and McNear side of the site, and those buildings are configured as either 8-plexes, 6-plexes, or 4-plexes, and they consist of the stack flats and the 3-story row homes. The duplex and triplex are over in the southwest corner, and those are as well as 1 single-family detached unit, and then the 10 of the single-family detached units are on the west side of the project, backing up to the Lena Lane existing subdivision. Those houses were designed as a transition between the Lena Lane project and the multifamily product on our side of the project. The project has 2 major access points. One is the main access point is off of McNear, and that will be the major access point. The secondary access point is currently on Lena Lane, with the access point on Petaluma Boulevard South as emergency vehicle access only. We are currently in discussion with the city about flip-flopping the Petaluma Boulevard South and the Lena Lane access point, and making Lena Lane the emergency access with no through traffic, and Petaluma Boulevard South as the secondary access point in and out of the project. Fire department has agreed with that concept, and we're still waiting on the city, mainly Public Works, to opine on that, but we are working toward getting that changed. The multifamily is alley access product, meaning garages are on the backside and access through these alleyways that you see here through the project. And there's very little very minor circulation through the project other than the alleyways. The project only consists of 21% coverage, building coverage. The rest is either open space, private open space, or circulation. There's 1 acre of common air open space and an additional private open space that makes up the additional open space throughout the project. The setback along Petaluma Boulevard South from the buildings along there is 50 to 55 feet. In comparison, McNear Landing across the street is 20 to 25 feet. The open space areas, there's 1 small open space area accessed via McNear and internally from the project. And then on the right-hand side to the south is a larger open space area that will be used as a park. The multifamily is a 3-story configuration, which has all porches. All units have porches, and it's activated to the front of the streets. So it's activated the public areas for access to and from the public streets and walkways. The site will be highly landscaped, as Scott said, there's 210 trees being added to the product, 30 of which are along McNear and Petaluma Boulevard South. The landscape plan includes multiple benches and sitting areas throughout the project, as well as walkways. And then in the main open space area, there will be 2 grassy areas, a grove, a gazebo in the center that Scott was mentioning. We were looking at making with recycled material from the site, including the wood and corrugated metal. And then there will be a tot lot on one side for children to play in. The product, this is an elevation of both Petaluma Boulevard South and McNear Avenue, showing the street sections, including the VFW on one side and the existing residents on the other side at Petaluma Boulevard South, and then the new proposed buildings. And then along McNear, showing Petaluma Boulevard, the 2 multifamily buildings, the single family detached, and the existing product along Lena Lane. The multifamily product, as I said, was 3 stories with porches or covered porches and balconies. It's in a traditional architectural style with board and bat siding, hip and gabled roofs, and shed roofs. And units each have 1 and 2 car garages, depending on the unit configuration. The triplex and duplex are in the Craftsman style. These units were designed to look more like large single-family detached houses than to look like duplex and triplexes. They each have 2 car garage, one of which the smaller unit has a tandem car garage, and a 3-story element on it, and with either 1 or 2 single-story elements. The single-family detached, there's two floor plans with 2 different architectural styles, or 2 different architectural elevations each. These are designed with front porches in a Craftsman style, and they each have 2 and car garages, 1 with a tandem and 1 with a side-by-side 2-car garage. And that's basically the nuts and bolts of the project, and we will open it up for questions.
One thing I'd like to add to this slide is my name, number, and email are there. So if there's any questions that come up that aren't answered tonight, or any concerns that anyone wants to discuss, please feel free to contact me directly.
So we have the first question from Chris Corniola in the chat. Will any lanes on Petaluma Boulevard be closed during construction?
They're undetermined at this stage whether anything will be closed during construction. There is a sewer and water connection that will be made out of that entrance that we were proposing on Petaluma Boulevard. That's the only major infrastructure work going in the ground inside the street. There's a lot of work. The power lines will be underground, but that's outside of the street area. And when that road improvements go in, it just depends on how much space is available. But I don't anticipate being significant shutdowns on Petaluma Boulevard. There's also some work that'll need to be done in McNear, because the power lines have to cross McNear to the north, and there's also a power line that crosses over to the VFW that will also have to be underground through McNear. So there are 2 spots in McNear that there will be some work being done that will probably wouldn't anticipate a full shutdown, but lane shifts. And
in addition, on the boulevard, there is a road diet plan that I'm not sure what the timing will be. That it might coincide with when our project is being constructed, but that will cause some delays on the boulevard.
this thing works better if I unmute myself. Melissa says, sorry, I missed the first 10 minutes. Please explain cost components.
Are we talking about the pricing of the homes, or?
Melissa, you want to unmute yourself and elaborate a little bit, please?
Hi, everybody. It's Melissa. Yeah, I'm interested in the pricing.
Okay, the pricing will range anywhere from the mid 300s up to $1 million. Roughly 58% of the units will be priced at or below 500,000 in today's dollars.
I noticed that Ryan has his hand up. I'm going to run through a few more in the chat and then we'll get to you, Ryan, and I will scan through the rest of the list. Someone with the moniker 697996 comments that 34 surface parking is not enough. They will be parking on Lena and Nadine and Mission. Julie Westney asks, how do you define open spaces?
We don't have the chart here, but as Jeff said, it's spread between public open space, which will be about an acre, and then the balance of the 0.6 acres will be private, will be backyards and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Great, Scott, just to clarify, so we're talking backyards and parking spaces as open spaces. Is that what you're saying?
No, parking spaces are not counted as open space.
Okay, great, thank you.
Tanya Orloff McInnes asks, has a traffic study been done? The area is already congested.
Jeff?
Yes, the traffic impact study has been completed.
Okay. Kathy and/or Craig Stair ask, what is the overall construction timing?
The approval process, as I mentioned, the EIR is adding anywhere from 3 to 6 months to our timing. But if all goes well, we would hope to be in front of the Planning Commission in April, May, and in front of the City Council in May, June. That's subject to slippage, of course. And then the grading permit and the building permits, Jeff, about a year.
6 months at the best, probably more like 9 months to a year.
And then construction would be roughly 24 months.
Michael Jones asks, how many separate families will be housed by this project?
Up to 79.
Okay. I'm going to take a break from the comments here, just a moment to drop over to get Ryan and then get Brittany Bendix, because I'm sure Brittany has useful things to contribute. So Ryan, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, how you doing? So I'm concerned about, I live on Nadine Lane, previously lived in the KB homes up on the hill. We moved there in 2013. Parking became a huge issue. People were told to park in their garages, and that just doesn't happen. My question really is, why are you guys allowed to only provide 2.19 parking spaces when the building code says 3? It's kind of troubling.
Jeff, do you want to handle that?
It was part of the discussions with the city and the powers that be. There's been a push to reduce parking, reduce dependence upon vehicles. And it was also part of the density bonus requirement in order to help provide affordable housing and the deed restricted housing and make it possible to do that. As part of the density bonus application, reduced parking is an element of that.
So I have to ask, I'm sorry, I don't
So-
have my hand up.
Oh,
How does elimination of parking reduce traffic footprint? I mean, there's no correlation there.
It's not going to make
That doesn't make people have less cars.
I'm not gonna be able to argue with you there. That's the feedback we were getting from government agencies and others, not ourselves.
Isn't it true because you guys upped your low income housing from the required 15% to 30%, which they allowed you to have your bonus for,
Yes,
for,
that
correct.
is,
That's how you're getting that, correct?
yes.
That's what I found out, guys, from the meeting that I went to this weekend. They upped their 30% to low income housing to get their bonuses to allow less cars.
I think low income people drive cars too. It makes no
They
sense.
do. They actually drive more cars,
Yeah.
No, that's,
Is
which is
there,
something we need to bring
It's-
up to city council.
okay.
Um,
And why do we need to really extend out through Lena at all? You already have 2 entrance points.
They're
Yeah.
not allowing them to enter. See, this is something I also found out. They're not allowing them to enter from Petaluma Boulevard South. They're only allowing them to enter from McNear. So they're only going to have allowing them to enter and exit from one entrance and exit from one place, which is McNear. They're allowed to exit onto Petaluma Boulevard South. Isn't that correct, gentlemen? As of right now?
as of right now, what we are trying to change is the emergency entrance to the project is off of the boulevard. So it would only be used in the event of an emergency. What we have asked the city to do and what the fire department has agreed to do, but Public Works has yet to weigh in on, is to just flip that so that Lena Lane is not a through street. It would be only have an emergency entrance, and that the regular second entrance to our development would be off the boulevard. But as yet, that has not, in fact,
Yeah.
Brittany, if you are with us, perhaps you could comment on that.
I've been looking for an opportunity to pull Brittany in. I see the hand up.
My hand has been up. Because first of all, I just really wanted to introduce myself and the staff that's also on this call. I'm Brittany Bendix. I'm the Deputy Planning Manager. And then we have Greg Powell. Greg, can you say hello?
Hello, everybody.
Greg is going to be the planner taking this across the remainder of the review process and managing the EIR process, which we're also pretty much just kickstarting. And then we have Olivia Irvin, who's on here too. Olivia, you want to say hello?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Olivia manages our environmental review and at the city. So I wanted to let you know that we're here. This meeting is a required meeting before the project is really able to go through any formal hearing process. It's an opportunity for the applicant to hear back from the community what their greatest concerns are. Staff attends these meetings typically just to hear from the public as well and get a sense, because we're in the middle of the review process. We want to know what the public is thinking as well. And right now, I think the discussion topic on access onto Petaluma Boulevard versus Lena Lane is a good example of that. I think initially when we were looking at this project, we were a little concerned about having the flow directly onto the boulevard because of anticipated bike lanes that are going to go there and trying to eliminate that conflict. We had yet to see the traffic study at that point. So that's all something that we're working with Public Works to kind of figure out and see what our options there. The project does need 2 means of ingress and egress for fire. So that's something that we've had to consider too. So that's really all the things that are going into the review process right now so that we can digest that and make the best recommendation to council that we can. So.
So bottom line,
I'm going to put our emails in the chat right now. That's the other thing I wanted to do, so that if anybody that hasn't reached out or hasn't heard from me, they know what our email contacts are. Greg's going to be the primary point of contact, but you can always reach out to Olivia and I as well.
so this is Ryan Floyd again. I really wasn't finished with my question, but the bottom line is there's not enough parking for these homes. I know that in the McNear Landing homes, there's not enough parking. In the KB homes, there's not enough parking. I feel it's going to force people to start parking in our neighborhood. You guys are just, I feel like you guys are proposing just to pack these people in there. I don't know if I read the plans right, but those single family homes from house to house is 7 feet apart. I mean, state of California is requiring people to social distance at 6 feet. I mean, it's crazy. When I lived up in the KB homes, I went to go do my backyard. I couldn't even fit a wheelbarrow on the side of the yard. So I believe this is going to be the same way.
I'm concerned as well, Ryan. I mean, just the thought of Lena being built through, I don't care if it's an emergency access or not,
No.
little poles, it gives the appearance of connectivity between the two,
That's correct.
the two places. They're going to walk through, park, and let's be honest. You can say all day, well, they need to use their garages for cars. No one's there to enforce it. Give me a break. I mean, that's hogwash.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I don't want there to be connectivity between the two, the two places. It needs to be kept that end.
If I could interrupt, we hear what you're saying, and we will work with the city as best we can. I think as Brittany just said, the purpose of this meeting is for us to get input from the community. So if you could address your comments to Jeff and I and to staff, we're making notes and we'll try to be as responsive as possible.
Okay, one thing Brittany brought up, which is great, I'm glad she brought up the Petaluma Boulevard. The storm gutters are a mess. They're a mess here in this city. Are you going to fix the infrastructure before you even contemplate starting a development of a new project, which I understand you need property tax revenue, and let's be honest, that's what this is all about. Are you going to fix for the city? Are you going to fix that? Because my wife's lived here all her life, and that's a known problem. And all we do is expand. We're taking away green space. You talk about open spaces. Most of that's not going to be green. Let's be honest. 4.09 acres today, that's green space that absorbs moisture, absorbs water, goes away, is replaced with hard surfaces, where now more water and more waste is going to go into that boulevard. And nothing's been done by the city.
So if we can get back onto track, I know that there is a planning and process to redo the boulevard, and some funding has been secured for that, but I'd like to kind of get back to the process of the questions, and the general statements can probably be better directed specifically to the people involved.
Dan, I can address that question.
Okay, great. Go for it, Jeff.
Yeah,
you're the host.
The improvements along McNear and Petaluma Boulevard, there will be extensive storm drain improvements, as well as along the entire frontage of Petaluma Boulevard. There will be a detention basin that is designed to collect and move the water into the storm drain system, keeping it off Petaluma Boulevard south. There'll also be underground drainage systems all the way through the project. The drive aisles, the alleyways will all be pervious pavers, i.e. they will drain. They're not asphalt or concrete, they're pervious pavers. So the requirement from the city is to not release any additional stormwater off the site. And actually, these days, the requirement is to detain most of the stormwater that hits your site and treat it and get it into a storm system and not release it onto the streets and such. So this project will improve the drainage situation along both McNear and Petaluma Boulevard South.
I have a question, and I don't know if it's for Brittany or one of you gentlemen can answer this, but I don't know if any of you have driven through the homes up the hill here that are the Quarry Heights. It's very dangerous driving up through there. And I live on the other side, which is Rovina. I have a stop sign right next to my home, which everyone drives through. Nobody stops. And my children play here, and it's very dangerous driving through Quarry Heights. There's no, two cars can't drive through there. with, I mean, I don't know how you guys are gonna have this where it's, if there's parking on the streets, if you're gonna have no parking on the street signs at all. I don't know how that's gonna be through with the city. Um, I don't know how you guys can do that, or if you guys are gonna have signs there. But literally everyone parks on the streets. And so when you're driving through, it is extremely dangerous to the point where we have actually hit a dog, and we are animal lovers. So when you're driving up through there, no one can see stop signs. You are literally trying to crawl through there where you don't have to hit children. And you're putting more homes so close together where everyone will be parking on the streets, and you're packing people in these homes. And you're saying there's only going to be 79 families, which I can guarantee you there will be more than 75 families living in these homes. With these developments coming in here, and the developments of 402 units coming from downtown, and the other 100 and something units coming in the other side of downtown, how can you guys, with one lane on Petaluma Boulevard, think this is not going to impact congestion for all of us living here? I mean, knowing that this community is not okay with this, and you guys seem to still be okay with forging ahead with 79 units, I just don't see how this is okay.
So,
I
shall
mean,
we
there's a
get
lot of
back to the,
questions in there, but I like some of those answered.
I think that some of those are our city staff. I'm just a facilitator. So I'd like to get back to the list of questions in the chat, and maybe we can draw the city in a little bit on some of these conversations.
So Dan, where do we get these questions answered? Because we've been reaching
I
out.
thought that what this meeting is for.
Yeah.
Well, so
Uh,
so this is my understanding is that this is particularly about this development.
It
That is about this
It is.
development. I mean,
Exactly.
these homes are going to have children in it.
But
I mean, it's going to take forever to get in and out of this development. There's going to be parking issues. There's going to be safety issues. There's going to be, especially with one lane down onto the boulevard. How are we going to get downtown when it already takes half an hour? It's now going to be an hour to get downtown. I mean, how can we, the community is not for this development, plain simple. That is what it is. Especially, I mean, 79 homes in here. It's cramping people in an unsafe environment. We have water issues. We have a COVID issue. Is this the time for this right now? No one's answering these questions. You're telling us about recycled wood when we have more important issues. I mean, let's get some real answers here.
Thank you.
Okay, so can I just, the purpose of this meeting is really to introduce the project to the neighbors and start a conversation. There are not going to be sorry, my cat is tearing apart my chair. There are not going to be like set in stone answers tonight. That's not what this meeting is for. It's really to hear what your concerns are, pick up on the experiences that you've had, kind of what you were just describing with Quarry Heights. Take that into consideration as we're reviewing the project, so we can look at everything holistically and assess what to do.
Hey, Scott, I have a question for you, and this is pertinent to this development. Why high density homes? The footprint here is single family homes. Why are we doing high density?
We're doing high density because there's a housing shortage in Northern California, and there are very few affordable homes in the city limits, and we're trying to offer a variety of different homes for a variety of different buyers.
What the other developments are getting out of it that are downtown? They're getting out of it. The 402 units downtown are getting out of it.
Out of what?
They're getting out of doing the affordable homes. And I was just in
The-
the meeting for this,
The North River Apartments project.
the one right next to the train station. They're putting it on a
Oh.
different development, so they didn't have to do it here, so they could do their pricing up. So they're
So
going to be expensive condos and apartments there instead of doing affordable homes.
I believe what they're proposing, and I don't think that this has been to the city council yet for consideration, but what they're proposing is instead of providing on-site affordable housing, they're providing affordable units at the Corona station site.
A different unit. They're putting it on a different unit so they don't have to put it here.
Hey, my hand has been raised.
Sure.
I've been in Zoom school for like ever, so I know we're supposed to raise our hand. I have a question for you, Brittany. I am curious about your role as a planner in this. And I want to say I'm sad that none of us heard from you for 5 weeks. And I appreciate that this meeting is for us to learn about this project, but a lot of us reached out to you and we didn't hear from you. So I just want to hear from you. Thank you.
Sure. So every project is assigned a planner. I'm the deputy planning manager for the city, so it's not typical that I'm assigned projects. I handed this project off for that reason because I can't be as responsive as I'd like to be. So my review moving forward will be to work with Greg and review his analysis and work with him and other city divisions and departments to craft a recommendation for the planning commission and then the city council.
We have more hands here than I've got ability to keep up with, but I'd like to work through the chat a little bit.
And
Chris,
if we could try, just so everybody can get in, if we could try to keep the comments to a minute or two, I think it would help us get to everyone.
Christine O'Brien asks a question that's probably for city staff about municipal finance. Who has determined that we even need more housing in this area?
Sure. So the city, this is complicated. So the state comes up with a number of required housing units for the state that's then broken down by region. That comes from the Association of Bay Area Governments, ABAG and MTC. They give us then targets at various income levels. Each jurisdiction is given a target. If you don't meet your target housing requirements, then developers are essentially to come in by right and build something without public notice. So this development, for example, isn't eligible for that. That would be like an SB 35 program. We've already had a couple of those downtown. This development is actually required to go through the entitlement process and isn't eligible.
Sumaya has already spoken, so I'll drop past hers for the moment. Steve
Can you
Crook.
follow up with the question?
Let's run through a bunch because your follow-ups might get answered and then we'll get through everybody's. But if you want to chat to me directly, I will keep notes here. Steve Crook.
I don't like the process. We put a question on there. We got no answer.
I'm trying to get
now
through
you're
these
saying
questions.
we're going to move on.
Well,
you need to take a little time and give the person a chance to see if they have any other question. Follow the question.
Well,
so why am I on the Zoom if you're not going to give me a chance?
So you're sorry, I was confused by the Christine O'Brien. So okay, so you want yes, okay, so you'd like a follow-up to Brittany. Go for it.
What I'm trying to think through here is the process. As we were talking in the neighborhood, when does this stop? I grew up in Marin. Marin's got saturated. You're trying to saturate this neighborhood. As I looked out the door tonight on Ravenna, all I saw was houses. And if you want to continue that process because of what you say you need, it's not what you need, it's what we need. So thanks for taking the time tonight, but take some time to really listen, not just say we're going to have to keep rolling this tape here. Okay?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Steve Crook concerns additional concern about parking. Tanya McInnes asks, what are you proposing the HOA dues will be?
That is yet to be determined.
Okay. Phyllis Cristiano asks, how will the disputed believe she means Dutra site fit with all of this? If Dutra goes through, it will be most definitely affect projected property values.
I can speak to that, and maybe Olivia can jump in if she knows anything more than what I say. The city has been opposed to the Dutra site. I think at one point, the last time I heard that it was moving forward or even trying to move forward was in summer of 2018, at which point I drafted a letter on behalf of the city with Scott Roden, who was the assistant city manager at that time, emphasizing the city was not supportive of that project and would continue to challenge it. I have not heard any forward movement on it since. So I don't know, Olivia, if you've heard anything, but that's kind of where I left off.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
What is the Dutra site, if I may?
I believe it's been a while since I looked at it. I believe it was a proposal to do aggregate, to break down aggregate concrete. Is that right, Olivia? Okay.
Well, Olivia would know better than I do. Go for it.
Yeah, that's my understanding is that it's a asphalt processing, kind of a excavation mineral activity kind of aggregate site.
And its location is generally right across the street, or like right across the river, rather, from Schollenberger.
Okay. Melissa asks, which units only have parking spaces, or is that garage with parking space?
Every unit has a garage.
Okay. So
there are 28 driveway spaces as well.
Okay.
It's not counted in the 34 off-site guest parking.
Julie Westney asks, what did you find from the traffic study?
The traffic study draft indicated that the level of service at McNear and Petaluma Boulevard intersection and going each direction based on the trip generation would be mostly at a level B service, which it is now. And at peak times during the weekday, it would be approaching level C service.
And I have to say, is level C catastrophe?
No, it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's you don't start getting into catastrophe until you get way down in the alphabet.
Jordan Canistra asks, how much of the 4.09 acres is hard surface and how much is green space?
Upon development, how much is hard space and
how much is green?
We don't have a calculation of it's 21% building coverage of the site. I don't have an exact number on what the total hard surface would be. The open space, not counting streets and sidewalks and driveways or any in alleys, is 70,000 square feet.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking for a breakdown. Sorry, I'm looking for a breakdown, including driveways, including streets. How much of that stuff is going to be hard surfaces? Because you're getting rid of all green space. I want to know how much green space is left.
I would have to break it down. We don't have the streets broken down, streets and sidewalks broken down as a percentage of coverage.
When we do break it down, when we do break it down, I'll get back to you. If you would send me an email with your contact information,
You bet.
we'll get back.
Scott, why
Thank
don't
you,
you,
Scott.
why don't you email all of us with that? Because we're all equally concerned. Okay? If you could email everybody that you have in your contacts about that.
Okay, well, I don't know if Jordan is on that list as
He's
yet.
on there.
Okay,
I'll
okay,
make sure he is.
Yeah.
happy to.
Nicole asks, again, probably a question for staff. How do we keep people from parking on Lena and Nadane? Can we do permit parking to prevent it?
Permit parking, one of the new members of council had suggested that this might be something, and that would not be something we could do, but it certainly could be something that the city could do. Brittany, any opinion about that?
That would be for the city engineer's consideration, so I can't commit to that, but it's certainly something that we can talk about or look at. And I think there was a question about other options. Painting the curb red, if that's what was preferred. Putting up signs, although I'm curious to hear a little bit more from Julie, maybe in a separate conversation. Because she was mentioning some problems with the signage in Quarry Heights and obstruction and visibility. So that's something we want to be mindful of and not recreate or even possibly fix if we can. So those are the strategies we tend to use. I know that at McNair Landing across the way, they have used red painting or red curbing for certain areas as a tactic. I don't know how effective that's been.
Can I
It's
ask real quick?
effective. This is Melissa. It's effective. I
Okay.
live here.
Okay,
Oh.
and then can I ask,
Thanks,
is
Melissa.
that red curb parking to deter people, or is it a bona fide like fire lane that you're not allowed to park in? Or you can get towed away if you park.
Well, I think in McNair Landing, it's a fire lane.
Yeah,
Okay.
So
it's red by the fire hydrant.
I feel like it empowers the neighbors a little bit more because then there's a little, it's easier to enforce.
We have a numerous more comments about parking. Parking is obviously a huge concern, and obviously vehicle overflow. I am going to obviously forward the chat and the recording of this session on to Scott and Jeff when we're done. Chris Corniola notes that Petaluma Boulevard is under construction for almost a year and parking is not allowed. The road is horrible and destroyed. I know that the boulevard is the boulevard rework is in process, and I don't remember anything about what the actual schedule of that is or how that's been impacted. Brittany, do you know anything there?
I'm sorry, the schedule for what?
For the Boulevard South resurfacing?
No, I'm not certain.
Okay.
I feel like these two are kind of on a collision course to happen at the same time, but obviously we want to look at that and coordinate. And so,
Yeah, I went to all of the Boulevard South meetings and now I don't remember what the schedule was at all. So Tanya
I
asks,
do think,
yeah.
well, I do think that a lot of the work that's going on Petaluma Boulevard right now is to take it. There's less people on the street because of COVID. So it might be that the timing has even advanced a little bit because our public works crews have been out there doing a lot of work on the streets to keep, to try and take advantage of this period.
Tanya asks, why 3 stories? There's nothing around it at 3 stories.
Yeah, the zoning allows for 3 stories, and it's a way to get the unit density up to where the city wanted it and limit the coverage of the buildings.
Okay. Hazel notes that if the sizes of your garages are the same size as the garages in McNair Landing, they are too small. 2 cars do not fit in a 2-car garage. I've been trying to avoid editorializing, but I live just over the hill in a house that was built in 1947, and I've got your too small garage several levels up. But Scott and Jeff, maybe you can talk about that.
The building standards in the building code now require the garages to be 20 by 20 if they're two-car garages. So,
okay.
And I believe they're 12 by 40 if it's a tandem.
Okay. Julie has her hand up again.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time figuring out how to put my hand up. You know, I am wondering if everybody here was to put their hand up, do you support this project? How many people's hands would go up? I'm just curious, right? Not the people who will profit from it, right? The people who will profit from it, don't put your hands up. But the people who will be impacted by it, how many of you support this? Put your hands up. I would love that.
I can't find it. I can't find the hand up.
Well, how about just like that? I can't either. I couldn't find it. I don't put my hand up. Or maybe, okay, I'm not going to change the rules. I don't think the people in this community, and I am not opposed to building, Scott. We've talked many times, but I'm wondering if this project, people who are on this call who are not profiting from this are in support. And I thought that Petaluma was a community of people who, like the people in charge, who want to know if we care about it, right? We keep saying we want to make people happy. I'm curious. That's all I want to say. I don't think you will see a lot of hands raised from people who won't get money from this.
And sorry, can I?
Well said, Julie.
Yeah, can I interrupt? Because I had a comment there and I've got to get to my son soon. Because I just totally echo what Julie says. You know, I think you guys are probably sensing frustration from the community and frustration from those of us on the call. I think even the objective of the call, frankly, hasn't been clear because I think people have been waiting. To Julie's point, there have been emails sent to Brittany by many people for many weeks without any response. So this was finally our chance, and it's a week before Christmas in the middle of a COVID crisis. And a bunch of us have kids and we're making the time to make comments and we feel like they're falling on deaf ears. Hey buddy, 1 second. You know, the concerns are very obvious. I would say the two biggest concerns are parking and Lena Lane being opened. So at a minimum, I think those need to be addressed. I think the density is also another issue. And I think our biggest question is how much of this is a done deal? And are these just, you know, is this just an opportunity for you guys to get to say that you met with the community? Or can we truly influence this? And are you guys truly listening to us? And my ask for everybody on the call, because a lot of the people from Vartnaw who are on the call, you guys are going to profit from this. And so I think all of us need to email City Council. So that is my ask for everybody on the call. If you support it, tell City Council. If you don't, tell City Council. But I think otherwise, I think that's kind of the frustration you're hearing from us, is that you've had many, many people say Lena Lane parking. I mean, Ryan, I think, said it first and said it so articulately. Sumaya, it's true. You drive up the hill. I mean, only one car can get through, barely, you know, and I think, you know, I think that's just our frustration. So anyway, so my question is, how much of this is a done deal? How much of this can we truly influence? Are you guys open to changing some of these things with regards to parking, density, and Lena Lane? Or is this just you can check a box?
God, Simone, I love you.
Thank you for saying it. Thank you.
This, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we have planned and we have already done a fair amount of community interaction. This is a long process. We have an environmental impact report to go through, which can affect what the project looks like. We met with the Nadine Lane and Lena Lane neighbors on site, and immediately after that meeting, met with the fire department to see if we couldn't get that emergency entrance changed. We are pressing on that. and we've made a point of it. So we do hear you, and we are trying to make the changes that that we can make. It is early in the process. It will be next spring before we have our first formal hearing in front of the Planning Commission. So this is a long road, and you will have ample opportunity to have input. But don't overlook the fact that after one meeting, we went and changed something in the plan in order to make it a better situation for the entire neighborhood, not just our site. So I hope that answers the question.
Jeanette, RC notes that development is essential to keep the schools open with students, and has additional commentary on that, and also has discussions about parking. And again, I will make sure that the chat script gets to Scott and Jeff and city staff.
Can I just say one more thing? In 30 seconds, building's inevitable. We would never be in our homes if it weren't. I mean, I moved on Mission Drive, and it was built in '74. Then it was the golf course up there, and then it was Nadine that was originally cobblestone or something, and then the rock quarry. And all of us, I see a lot of neighbors of mine on this chat, and we've always been involved with development, and it isn't inevitable, and we need it. We really do. But, and I appreciate you, Scott, the way you're managing the meeting, in that I feel you do have an open ear, and it's the people that are on this Zoom. Don't give up, don't get frustrated. We are the ones that help shape the development with our input. And yes, I mean, we went from Burbank housing behind the Vets building to, I mean, I've seen a lot of it go on, but we really do have some good input. We had stop signs put in where we needed them, where they weren't, and we've really had some very valuable input. So don't give up, don't get frustrated, don't get upset, because all your input's so important. And, it's just, I appreciate it. I really do, because we need to build, we need to do it right. And with a lot of ideas, it can happen.
Thank you.
Patty asks, I've looked for a high resolution site plan to get a better idea of this project and found none. Are the materials that you're showing here going to be available?
Certainly.
Okay.
If Patty would send me an email, we'll get something back to her.
Great. Melissa says, I live in McNear Landing. Homes are 10-ish feet apart. Dogs in this development are numerous. Traffic, parking, and safety animals all need to be considered. I'm running down because I think we've gotten out of order and hit a bunch of these. Melissa has comments about the traffic light wait at McNear Landing, which I think would be Public Works, but I don't know. Tanya McInnes asks, how big are the lots for the single family homes?
Jeff, can you address that?
They're roughly 4,000 square feet.
Okay. Patty Pritchard asks, what does sea level mean in terms of traffic? How much time to get through the intersection?
I don't have the study in front of me.
I can answer that, Jeff. It's level of service. C is a delay of 20 to 35 seconds. D is 35 to 55.
Okay. Patty comments that 3-story units are not in tune with the current neighborhood. Jordan Canestra asks, is the highest point of the triplex taller than the top point of an existing home in Riverview?
It's 35 feet. I'm not quite sure what the highest point in Riverview is. But.
Okay. And is that, I know that with some development or a workshop I built in my backyard, the city told me that the height limit was the middle of the gable on the roof. Is that 35 feet is total height, or that middle of the gable thing?
Total height.
Total height. Okay, cool.
Peak roof height.
Patty observes that three-story units are not in tune with the current neighborhood. Oh, we're already down to Jordan there. I'm losing track. Floyd Ross says, I'm concerned about how close the back of Nadine Lane properties and the single family homes. The site map I have seen shows 8.8 feet 5 inches between my fence and the back of the new home. Related to this concern is the actual property line between the new development and the Nadine Lane properties. And just to toss this off, will fiber be a part of the new development? Will there be a dog run within the development? There's a bunch of questions.
Fiber could possibly be a part of the development if it's available to the site. And there is not currently proposed a dog park, but there are two grassy open space areas in the main park area, which could be fenced in to provide a dog park area.
Jordan Canistra asks, do these homes have yards? Where are the children supposed to play?
The single family detached have yards, the duplexes have yards, and then the multifamily has the two open space areas in the park with the tot lot and the two grassy areas as proposed, and the little grove area and the gazebo area.
Okay. Divakar, and apologies for the pronunciations, that might be D. Ivakar, trying to understand the processes for the city and the builder. How come the residents are even informed after what this looks like something has been in the works for some time? Wouldn't this be shared, discussed before getting here? And two, why would we want to mix this dense community with the single family homes here? All looks like property tax mantra and nothing more, honestly.
Again, we've talked about what the planning process is. Traditionally, you start with city staff, and regardless of what city it might be, you understand what their building codes are, with the development codes. You try to design something that addresses those things, that addresses whatever the needs might be in that particular community. So it starts with a fair amount of back and forth with staff. And then after you come up with your plan, then we begin sharing it with the community. And again, it's going to be, it will be next spring before we have our first public hearing, but we will have more of these community meetings as the project becomes better defined.
Jordan Canistra asks a question that's probably a state policy level one, but maybe the city staff can help kind of suss this out a little bit. Why do you get to put in more homes just because of a change in the percent of low income? The amount of space did not grow.
Sure, I can take that. The Affordable Housing Density Program is something coming from the state that is basically crafted to encourage the development of more affordable units because of the housing crisis. And so what it does is it gives developers and applicants a list of concessions or exceptions that they can seek from the code in exchange for providing more units. And so that's where they're getting parking, the parking reduction from.
Patty Pritchard notes that with the Vets Hall events, the overflow parking can move up every street nearby, and that this will impact that development as well. Christine O'Brien asks, how will this project impact property values in this home, as homes in this neighborhood are in the $1 million up range? It's always hard to tell.
It is difficult to tell, but this is new housing, and some of ours from the get-go will be at the $1 million mark. So they'll be in keeping with the neighborhood.
Okay. We have more comments about parking and additional parking. And Jordan asks, how are you going to prevent investors from purchasing units and reselling at much higher prices?
it's difficult, but there is such a need for these. Certainly the 26 that are deed restricted affordable. We're going to be working with the Housing Land Trust, who will manage that process. So there will be no investors purchasing there. And in general, we expect this to be very popular because there are many folks who would like to have a home in Petaluma and just flat out can't afford it right now. And they'll be able to for this.
And this is actually a clue to me that at Know Before You Grow, we need to have Dev Gochis of the Marin Housing Land Trust. I hope I got that right, because there are a couple of different ones that have very similar names. Speak again. Sonoma. Yes, thank you. Because she gave a very good presentation 2 years ago or so to Know Before You Grow on their process. And Sumaya once again reiterates that yes, the vet building parking overflow is bad. Julie would like a clarification. She says, Scott, you had told us previously that the owners weren't allowed to rent their units. Please address.
No, I'm sorry. If that is what you heard, that is not what I meant to say.
Great, I appreciate that. Hold on, Scott. So when we did a walk around,
yeah,
we were talking about how you were going to keep people from buying a unit and renting it. And you said the HOA 100% will buy the unit, you must live in it.
Okay. That is not the case.
I have that written down. I probably have it recorded, but I'm curious as to how you will enforce that people who buy the unit can't rent it to others.
No,
and that's what you said they won't.
No,
do,
we can't do that. And
you can enforce they can't rent it for 30 days or less.
Yeah, it can't be a vacation rental.
You specifically said, Scott, that the people who buy it have to live here and that you will enforce that.
There's no way to enforce something like that. It can't.
That was why I was very curious about that.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
So people can buy the unit and then rent it to whomever they want. Is that what you're saying?
Just like most
right.
any property, most anywhere. Yes.
Yeah, no. But I'm clarifying, because the first time we met and you came and stood on my porch and you said the people who buy the homes here will never be allowed to rent because they have to live there. You said that.
Julie, I don't recall that. I think as we stood looking at the view, hang on, I mentioned that the house directly next to you in our project would have an ADU behind it, a granny flat behind.
And that's why we talked about this.
And they don't have to rent it if they don't want to. But other than that, no, it's not something.
So people can buy the units.
No.
Someone can buy all the units if they want and rent them. I could buy all these units and rent them to whomever I want. Is that what you're saying?
If you could afford to buy all those units and rent them.
I'm clarifying, because that is different from what you had told me.
I'm sorry if there's a misunderstanding, but no, these are like any other property. If you buy it.
That's very different.
Okay.
Make it a big rental community then, Julie? I mean, condos, people rent condos a lot more than they rent single family homes.
Well, no, it's very interesting because of the conversation I had with Scott, and that's it. I was thinking, how do we enforce this? How is he going to enforce this?
So
now I'm clear that people can buy these and rent them to whomever they want.
I wonder if perhaps there's a little bit of confusion over the housing that the Sonoma Land Trust would hold and the others, because I know that there are restrictions on the low-income housing the land trust deals with, right?
That is
yes,
correct.
You cannot rent those out. You cannot rent the deed restricted houses out. That is not an option. When you purchase a deed restricted house, you have to live in it. You cannot rent it out.
So
great. That is probably where that communication went.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be so somebody correct me where I'm wrong here, but I believe that what occurs is the land trust holds a restriction on the deed, and that the owner that they sell to can only resell at a value that's adjusted by the area median income.
For 55 years, yes.
And must be occupied. And so that's how that portion of the low income property gets managed.
And they're not allowed to rent it out, that not even and from my understanding is not even for the low income rental price.
Right.
They have to live in it or sell it to somebody that qualifies.
But
Awesome.
yeah, this is why we
So-
need to get Dev Gochis to talk to us.
Good. So I'm curious, is there like part of the property that is separated that way? And part that's not?
No, the deed restricted affordable units are sprinkled throughout the community.
In the multifamily units and the duplex and triplex units.
We have comments about Solar Ready, which I believe is already covered by the state.
They're not solar
state
ready.
laws.
They will have solar.
They will have solar. Okay. Another comment asking about what terms the HOA will be able to do to make sure people park in the garage.
The CCNRs will spell that out, and then it will be up to the HOA to police it.
Okay.
Fines that go against the property.
Great. So will we be privy to the HOA people, so we can inform them that people are, right? Like, who is this HOA?
As we talk, Julie, they will be your neighbors. It's fairly easy to find out who the board of the HOA would be. And yes, I would anticipate there'd be communication between the two communities.
But just to clarify, I believe that the HOA would only have control over parking in that area, and that a parking permit system would be the way to go for overflow.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Okay.
right. Brian Barnacle and I met and talked about that. My
Okay.
main concern, and I don't speak for the community, but I do speak for myself, is to keep this Lena land closed. Brittany, how do we do that?
Oh, we're looking at it internally. We have to balance it out with the needs on Petaluma Boulevard and what we're hearing here tonight. We haven't ruled it out, but I can't make that decision unilaterally. I need to make that in connection with our city's traffic engineer, our city engineer, and our fire marshal.
Great. Sounds like the fire marshal already said yes. So how do we proceed with the other two bodies of government that you're talking about?
Well, the applicant has requested that we consider that. And so that's the first major step, right? Is you've had this discourse with the applicant. They've brought it to us to consider. They have an active application under review right now. So, I mean, this is how that gets fleshed out. We're in that process.
Great. So is there anything else that we can do?
I've
Advocate for
heard
me.
a lot. I've heard a lot from you tonight, and
You'll
I
hear
think it would,
more.
yeah, it would be helpful to have these kind of itemized in writing, right? When you submit public comment to us by email, letter, that goes into our project record, and it helps inform the decision makers when we get to that point of the process. We can go back and say, well, council, this is why we hear your concerns. This is why we made the decision to do it this way. Here is some of the feedback that we got from the outreach meeting that carried through to the public notice. So-and-so is here tonight to testify. Sorry, I go into council or
Okay, go for
hearing
it.
mode, but
I
that's
gotcha.
kind of
I'm
how
with you.
that plays out.
So good. So is it about the number of emails you get? Because I know this neighborhood has emailed you many, many times, Brittany. Is it about quantity or quality, or to whom? Right?
Well,
Because
so
I
emailed your group last night because I've
Okay.
only received 4 emails.
from November, a little like.
Right,
it's-
but I am concerned
hear
if,
you.
you know, if you're saying there's more than that, I haven't gotten those. And
Well,
so I want to make
that
sure
is
that they
good to
weren't,
know.
because everything is happening by email and there's high
No,
volume.
that's great. That's great. I
Um,
just want to clarify that if we want to really make a case for why we don't want to open up Luna Lane, really, that's really my biggest concern. I'm not speaking for the neighborhood.
Sure.
How do we do that?
So you get involved in the process, which is what you're doing. You'll want to contact Greg because he's going to be taking the lead on this project. And will be much more available than I am.
No problem. Great.
And
Greg,
just, you know, give your feedback to Greg on the plans.
Right.
Make sure that you ask him about any milestones for the project. We're going through an EIR. So there will be once the EIR gets kicked off formally, there's, Olivia can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a notice of preparation that goes out in a scoping meeting.
Great.
And that will be an opportunity for the public to comment on what they would like to see assessed in the EIR. The EIR gets noticed well in advance before the actual entitlements for the project. So there will be a 30-day publication for the EIR, Olivia?
45 days.
Okay, 45? Okay, 45 days in advance. And a comment period. The EIR is a lot more thorough, I would say, maybe, in going through every single public comment received and responding to it based on the contents of what's studied in the EIR. So that's a huge process and endeavor. And the entitlements really at that point are kind of secondary.
Yeah, and I just want to add on that at the beginning of the EIR process, through that scoping that Brittany mentioned, that's an opportunity to provide input at the beginning of that process. So all of the comments that we've heard here tonight, we're taking note of. Those will be part of what's considered, but that during the scoping meeting for the EIR, there's an opportunity to talk specifically about the environmental concerns and to provide feedback and input on project alternatives and what the scope of that analysis should be. So we've heard a lot about parking, we've heard a lot about Lena Lane. So some of the things going through my mind is looking at an alternative that would preclude access there. So that will shape up as we go through the process, but that's the beginning of the process to receive that feedback. We're not even there yet, and we're already getting input. And then, as Brittany mentioned, we go through that scoping, and then the EIR gets prepared. The draft EIR is released. There's a 45-day public comment period. During that process, there's multiple opportunities for public comment during public hearings before the Planning Commission and Council. That's during the draft stage. There's no entitlements. That's just looking at the environmental analysis. We collect all of the comments that come in there and then prepare a final, which the purpose of the final is to respond to each of the comments that are received. So they need to be related to the environmental impacts and not the merits of the project. So that's something to keep in mind.
I get it.
Yeah. And then all of that record is as part of the information. And that's what Planning Commission and Council hearings, they, hear all of that. They're part of that input, and then the final comes back with the entitlements for consideration. So there's multiple steps in the process with additional opportunities for public engagement.
And if we could, we know this is not our first interaction. We're getting a better handle on what the concerns of the community are, and we've heard from a lot of people tonight. Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak, or anyone who has a question? Because if not, as I say, this is a long road, and as Olivia just pointed out, even on the EIR, there will be ample opportunity for input. So,
well, Scott, you know me, I probably need to talk a little bit more.
Yes, I'm picking up on that, Julie. So,
Olivia,
but if we could, I think if we could for tonight, I think we understand everyone's concern.
I do have one quick question about the HOA. It's two questions about the HOA. Can we put in the HOA that those living there cannot park in our neighborhood? Can we have that added into that HOA?
Well, the HOA, the CC&Rs are the rules of the HOA, and I think I don't know for sure, but I doubt that there's an ability for a private organization to dictate things that are outside the physical environment. Jeff, there could be a recommendation perhaps, but I don't know that there's.
And my second question, with the low income housing that is going to be in this development. Now, I've been in a situation where they've had upgrades with an HOA where you get assessments. I mean, I've had my condo that I used to own a $35,000 assessment come by. Now, if that was to happen, how does that work for a low income housing situation?
Every unit will have whatever their assessments are, and but the way budgets are done now, I don't know how long ago it was that that you owned yours, but
like 3 years ago.
Okay. Well, budgets are done, and in general, with a new project like this, a great proportion of the initial funding, the dues from the HOA go to reserves, so that you try to anticipate what the problems will be, and then the HOA is building a reserve so that when those situations occur, that they've got the money to take care of it. Okay.
Okay.
So I will forward along the comments and videos to everybody involved. I encourage everybody to get in touch with Scott, and I think we've probably driven about as much space as we can here.
Oh, damn. I can do more. I can do more. Somebody mentioned Greg. Who is Greg? Are you Greg? Who's Greg Powell? And how are you involved? Olivia, you said something about Greg Powell.
I did. And I don't have my screen, so.
Right there. I see. How are you necessary to this?
Well, I'll just jump in and say that I just joined the team a couple weeks ago, and this is one of the first projects I'll be working on. So to help with some of the things you've talked about tonight about access and response times.
Right.
Hopefully
now, are you on the city side or the builder side? There's two sides there.
City.
City. Good.
Yeah.
Are you interested in the environment or are you interested in profit? What's your side here?
Well, I have no interest in the profit side of things because that's not what's in the zoning ordinance and general plan. So
you're an environmental guy.
No,
he's fully representing what the city general plan and zoning call for.
Okay, so you are a planner.
City planner.
Okay,
yep.
Good. City planner. I just needed to know who we're dealing with. And
Right.
I wanted to say thank you, Olivia. You clarified a lot in 2 minutes that could have been clarified like an hour ago, right? So I appreciate you being clear.
All right.
Well, thank you, everyone. And we will have other meetings. And again, it's a long road and there's a lot of opportunity for input. So thank you everybody for your time tonight.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.